It's your boy, Amreezy, and I'm back on YouTube Live. My first ever YouTube Live video for a brand new series I'm thinking of doing. Well, I am doing. The thoughts have become a reality. I'm doing Welcome to Plaçars, as I've so acronistically called it. Plaçars, Premier League and Sorare Amazing Review Show. Welcome to Plaçars. Oops, we can hear ourselves in the echo. We're going to have some technical issues. I'm still working it all out. I think this is being broadcasted live. How it's going to work is I'm going to do a weekly review show of the Premier League, everything that's happened that weekend. Yes, the chat works. And there's also another little feature. Thanks to the Shan for writing. The message works. The message is highlighted on stream. Thank you for the yes back. The Shan, I think I know who you are from your name. Good to have you on board. But yes, I'm going to be talking about the Premier League every weekend, reviewing all the games, giving my thoughts, and I'm going to be especially putting a Sorare angle on things where what happened in the games. It's not going to be so much reviewing the tactics and what happened, but more how that affects fantasy football games such as Sorare, which is the game that I like the most. So welcome. If you are new around here, if you're watching this video later, give it a like and a subscribe. Helps me out massively. I'm just going to move that camera down a little bit. Chelsea have just finished playing West Ham. Chelsea have just beaten West Ham, and that was a close game. But we're going to go through games today in order. I do have just noticed first little error. The West Ham Chelsea score on screen here says 3-0 because that's what I thought the score was going to be. Was 2-1 to Chelsea in the end. So, welcome. Get comfortable for an hour of Premier League and Sorare chat. In the future, I might also show you my lineups, show you some basic Sorare thinking, what I'm doing with, maybe build a few lineups live on screen. We're going to do that. Basically, I'm working toward making the channel, having some more live aspects. And we've got our tea. So I hope you're comfortable with your cup of tea. And let's get started with Nottingham Forest 7, Brighton 0. That was the first game of the weekend. And let me see if this works. Boom. There's the Sorare market. So the site I like to use for scores is FotMob. We'll have a look at... So, Forest 7-0 winners over Brighton. Did not see this coming. Nottingham Forest had just lost the game before. 5-0. Did they lose 5-0 to Bournemouth? So, I didn't play probably as many Forest cards as I could have in my Sorare lineups because Forest are one of my main collections. It's Forest, Wolves in the Premier League, and Monaco and Barcelona in Europe. So, I didn't fully go all out on Forest. No worries, the Shan. No worries. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. Have a good evening. Good evening with the rest of your evening. So if you look at my lineups from the weekend just gone, I did put some Forest boys in there, obviously. And if you watch my other videos, which I do every Thursday, Road to Sorare Boss, where I show you my thinking, my lineups, and new cards that I'm buying, I go into this kind of detail in more depth. These kind of videos are going to be a bit more Premier League reviewing type of videos. But as you can see here, I only put 3 Forest cards in my A lineup. Usually I go 5. But I thought Cole Palmer have West Ham. And again, this worked out in the end. Cole Palmer did okay. Liam Delap did okay. $15 cash prize. I'm not going to get too excited until that's fully cemented in because I'm only 2 points ahead of $10. But I did good. But if I'd have put Chris Wood instead of Delap, Chris Wood's here. And if I'd have put another Forest player, maybe say Anderson, maybe I would have gone, or maybe I would have left Palmer and gone for 4 Forest. Basically, I'm saying I didn't expect this result, Nottingham Forest to win 7-0. But can we see the lineups? But they were amazing, and they played a different formation, Forest, this weekend. They went 3 at the back, and I was surprised because usually Forest have played quite a sensible formation, 4-5-1 with Chris Wood as the main guy, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi in the wings. But they did 3 at the back, and they've done this a few times this season. And whenever they go 3 at the back, a good Sorare card to kind of consider is Morato, because usually the back 2 are Milenkovic and Murillo, and they're both quite expensive cards now because throughout the season they've gone up in value. Morato you can get for about 50p. Let's check out what Morata is currently being sold for. And it did make me think, I don't have a Morata card, so it'd probably be good for me to have him as part of my Sorare collection. 62p. Now, if they keep playing 3 at the back, Morata is going to play a lot more games. The problem is, if you look at Morato's games, he played this game where they were 3 at the back. They went 3 at the back at Everton. They went 3 at the back against Brentford. Basically, whenever he's had a start, it's because they've gone 3 at the back. So it's impossible to say if they're going to go through another period of 2 at the back again. But keep your eyes out on Nottingham Forest. If in the next game they play 3 at the back, it'll be the first time this season they've gone 2 games in a row playing 3 at the back. And maybe it's a hint at the new formation that could be in place. And Morata would be a great card. Cheap, 62p, low L15 score as well. So if he does get into that team, he'd be good for Cap 250 competitions if they come back in Sorare. A lot of things to consider here. So yeah, he's the kind of first card that I think was worth thinking about in Nottingham Forest. Obviously, there's the big cards like Chris Wood, Elanga, Gibbs White, the big cards that we already know are established Forest players. But I just think Morata is possibly worth thinking about. Danilo was a surprise inclusion in the first team as well. Usually this has been players like Ryan Yates or Dominguez, I think's had some games. Ward-Prowse used a few appearances here and there, but he's mainly been a bench player. So again, if Danilo can work his way into that team, possibly keep an eye on him. I don't have Danilo or Morata, so I think I might be looking at getting those cards to help with my Forest collection. But even if I didn't, I think as one-off punts, they're worth thinking about. And in terms of Brighton, Minte was quite lively. At the beginning, I don't think it was a 7-0 result. At the beginning, it was quite close. When were the goals scored, minute-wise? 12 minutes, Lewis Dunk own goal. Own goal as well. So for the first 10 minutes, it was quite end-to-end, and Minte looked really lively. I was even looking up his price. And now there's no way I'm going to even get, there's no way I'm getting any Brighton players. I do have his Stupinan. I think that's the only Brighton card I have. But after the first 10 minutes, I was quickly checking the Sorare market, looking at Minte, going, is this an option? Could this be, if Brighton get their act together, Minte is quite a lively player. And if you look at the ratings, he got 7.6. All of FOTMob's ratings are kind of based on Opta scores, which is the same as Sorare scores. So I like using this site because the ratings are quite similar to Sorare's ratings. And I just like the interface. It's quite easy to use. So yeah, Minte, as you can hear, 7.6 in a team that lost 7-0 does show you how good he was. But he just needs the rest of his team to be performing better. And they're clearly not. Will the manager last till the summer? Who knows? Who knows? But that was the first game of the weekend. Forest 7, Brighton 0. The next game was Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 2. And this one, I think, again, a little bit like how 7-0 wasn't really fair on Brighton. I don't think 2-0 was fair on Bournemouth. I didn't actually see this game live. I only saw the highlights. But Bournemouth hit the post, the crossbar, maybe the post again. And they are missing Evan Nielsen. I know there's been games for Bournemouth where they've got by without him. And they've had Semenyo doing well. They've had Otara. They've had Kluivert's popped in with a lot of goals. But I think Kluivert and Evan Nielsen are a good kind of... When he comes back, I'm not quite sure when he comes back. I don't think we definitely know when Evan Nielsen is back. Let's see if FOTMob has an update on his injury. Estimated return early April, so he could be out for the season. So in terms of Sorare cards to be looking at, the problem is with Bournemouth. So I think this was a good result for them, even though they lost 2-0. Liverpool, just a penalty and a bit of quality from Salah. It's very hard to compete against that. Liverpool are in that kind of form right now where they're just getting wins, doing what they can. I just think Bournemouth did themselves quite proud in this game, even though they lost, and have got an amazing run of fixtures coming up now. I'm going to go to the FPL's fixture difficulty ranking that they have here. And if you look at Bournemouth's fixtures coming up, they have Southampton away, Wolves at home. So next 2 games, great games for Bournemouth. Brighton away, you've just seen Brighton lost 7-0. So then that's not necessarily the worst game. Tottenham don't exactly have the best defense. So Tottenham could be a good game. Then Brentford at home, Ipswich at home, West Ham away. So for the next 7 weeks, you could argue Bournemouth have maybe the best run of fixtures out of anyone. Wolves have got a fairly good run of fixtures coming up. I am a Wolves fanboy here. I do have a Wolves collection because I've eyed this run in. From here to the end of the season, when they're going to be desperate to stay up, I think Wolves are going to be a good team to have. But for now, they've got Liverpool, Bournemouth, and then Fulham is when it kind of changes. But I think for now, Bournemouth probably have the best fixtures. So naturally, I go to Sorare and I think, okay, so Bournemouth have got the best fixtures. Who do I want? I've got Kepa in classic as part of my Chelsea collection. I've got Kepa as a classic goalkeeper. I've got Zabani in defence. I've got Lewis Cook and I've got Evan Nielsen. Now, part of me is tempted to spend and buy a Bournemouth full collection. However, I kind of want to stop spending now and kind of save my money till the end of the season when prices go really cheap and start thinking about next season's in-season cards. So I'm already in that mindset where I don't want to keep buying collections. And I've got Forest cards, I've got random other cards, I've got Wolves cards. I don't think I should be buying any more cards. And also, what puts me off Bournemouth players right now is they're popular. They're in fashion. Everyone knows they've got good fixtures coming up. Everyone knows they've been on a good run. And if you look at the limited cards, Kluivert's £8.22, Semenyo £8.10. Annoyingly, I considered Kluivert at the beginning of the season, and he was like £1.20, £1.40. So seeing him at £8.22, Semenyo £8.10, who's the other one? Otara £6.16. For me, these are kind of hyped prices. I would like maybe Bournemouth to lose the next game, prices to come down, and then I get them. I'm not really going to be paying prices when they're the highest they've ever been for these Bournemouth cards. So I'm going to wait because there's no Premier League football next weekend anyway. There's like a FA Cup, Champions League, European breaks basically. So I'm going to keep my eyes on that. But if Bournemouth have a sort of dodgy cup game, maybe price comes down. If they lose the Premier League game against Southampton, because Southampton might have a bit of confidence now. They've just beaten Ipswich. Maybe that could be harder than it thinks. But I really need a Bournemouth defeat. Also, as a Chelsea fan, I don't like all of these teams below Chelsea doing well. So, a defeat might actually help Chelsea as well. But yeah, I don't really like buying cards when they're at the peak of their price. Even though it's £8 and compared to other Premier League players that go for £20, £30, it's relatively cheap. It's just the principal thing for me. I like to get players when they're on the way down. When people are selling, that's when I like to buy them. So I'm holding off buying any new Bournemouth cards. But if you're, say, new at the game and you've got, say, £50 to spend on Sorare, right now, I would say buy 5 Bournemouth cards. Buy Kepa for £20, Kluivert, Semenyo, they're your 2 forwards. I wouldn't buy Otara just because whenever Nielsen comes back, if he comes back in April, Otara will probably be dropped. Because Evan Nielsen, I think, is still going to be the number 1 guy up front. However, Otara is going to be here for now. So if you want to play Sorare, if you're just starting playing Sorare, by the way, use my link in the description because that gives you £50 of free credits once you've bought 5 cards. But the cards I would buy are Azpilicueta for £20, Zabani for £4.29. That's your goalkeeper and your defender. I'd get a midfielder, possibly Tyler Adams. I've got Lewis Cook, but his scores have dropped lately because the right back got injured, and Lewis Cook's been playing at right back, and ever since he's done that, his Sorare scores have fallen off the cliff here. Look at it. This is like a literal cliff. 71 cliff. So Lewis Cook, not quite the player I hoped he could be. So if I was going to buy a midfielder from Bournemouth, I'd probably go for Tyler Adams, and then I'd go for Kluivert and Semenyo as your 2 forwards. That's a nice stack for Bournemouth's next 7 fixtures. But I have a lot of Premier League in-season cards now, so I'm not going to be doing that. But I've got the goalkeeper and I've got the defender, so I'll be going for the Bournemouth defensive stacks in the future. So that was Bournemouth-Liverpool. I don't think there's any Liverpool Sorare cards to consider that nobody already doesn't know about. It's pretty much the back 4 that we know, midfield 3 that we know, Salah, Gakpo, and Diaz. I suppose the only surprise is Diaz. Maybe Darwin sometimes plays, so Diaz isn't fully nailed on. So maybe it's a surprise that Diaz is playing. Shrugs. But yeah, I don't think there's many surprises with the Liverpool team. Nothing really to think about that you won't already be aware of in terms of Sorare. Everton-Leicester was the next game of the day, and this is a game that I watched live. At 3 p.m. on Saturday, I had 2 games multi-screen. I was watching Everton-Leicester, and I was watching Ipswich-Southampton, both for Sorare reasons. And A big win for Everton. I do think Everton are back. Now, this formation here says 4-5-1. It wasn't really like that. It was more of a 4-4-2 with Doucouré working his socks off. He was playing basically... Oh, look at this. This is like Monday Night Football graphics. So Doucouré was basically playing up here with Beto, but because he's such an energetic player, he's sort of doing like this. He's sort of playing the number 10 role and up front. So often when they're on the counter-attack, Doucouré is running down here, Beto is running down here, and Dai also cutting in. And the Sorare card that I have, the reason why I was watching this game, was firstly to see how David Moyes is settling at Everton. And I think he's settling in really well. I know Leicester's an easy game, but the way they're playing, the formation they're playing, it's classic David Moyes. It's like David Moyes when he was back at Everton in the old days. 4-4-2. Wingers are key to the game. Two solid midfielders. Garner was amazing. This is the card that I have in Classic. I've got Braithwaite and Tarkowski both in Classic. And I've got Garner in Classic. So I've got these three cards in Sorare Classic cards. And I've got Lindstrom as an in-season card. So obviously Everton were of interest to me. And I was really impressed with how solid they look at the back. Garner looks like this really creative player now. They've really missed him. Hopefully he can really kick on from this result. He's sort of playing a bit like Cesc Fabregas, but with a bit more solidity. He's winning tackles, getting forward, making passes to these four players, all making lots of runs. I think Everton could be a good pick for the second half of the season. David Moyes, the Moyes sire, is back. I think it's going to work out. Beto's the main man, and also I think this team's better without Calvert-Lewin. I'm not a fan of Calvert-Lewin, how he plays. I think Everton could probably do without him. I think Beto looked far more lively than Calvert-Lewin's ever looked. And talking about Lindstrom, he has the worst rating here, 6.5, which is a little bit harsh, I think. I think he was very unlucky in this game. Jesper Lindstrom, his cards are very cheap as well. Jesper Lind... £1.25. I actually bought him for 50p. But you can get him for £1.25 now. You might be able to negotiate that a little bit cheaper, but you could probably pick him up for about £1. And I'm telling you, he passed the eye test for me. He missed two big chances, which is why I think he gets a bad score. One chance was really easy. He was like 6 yards away from goal and he put it... I don't want to think about it too much. It brings back bad memories, but... He almost scored, but what was encouraging for me was he's getting in the right places. He's very dangerous on the wing, putting a lot of crosses in. I watched Everton play the game before this last weekend, and he gave Calvert-Lewin like two big chances that Calvert-Lewin wasted. So I think he's got better players around him. As Everton grow in confidence, the strikers are going to grow in confidence, become better at finishing these chances. And I think Lindstrom's going to get a lot more assists. And also, he doesn't just like assists. He reminds me of Steven Pienaar. And I'm thinking that Moyes has got his new Steven Pienaar in Lindstrom here. He gets in the box as well. He gets forward here. He runs down the wing. He causes problems all around the area. I like Jesper Lindstrom. Leicester, nothing. No, because I like to play Sorare going for those teams that aren't the top. I don't buy in season Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. I like looking at the struggling teams that will win on their day. And last season, I bought some Burnley players with this kind of strategy where at the end of the season, there's always a few relegation battling teams that start pulling out results out of nowhere. Burnley did that a little bit last season. Even though they got relegated, Burnley started putting up some results last year. And I think Wolves will be that team this year. Southampton, probably not. Ipswich, probably not. And Leicester, probably not. So I think Everton and Wolves will be the teams that do well. And I think the bottom three will probably go down again. But I do watch the relegation teams, hoping I see something from someone that makes me think, ooh, they look good, or they might be ready for the relegation push. But with Leicester, I don't see anyone. Like, before the season, I was looking at James Justin cards. I was looking at Harry Winks cards. I was looking at Vardy cards, thinking if Leicester get a few results going, this guy could be an option, Winks could be an option, Justin could be an option, maybe the goalkeeper. But yeah, there's nothing. Look at the ratings. Nobody getting anywhere near a green rating. So yeah, I think Leicester they're down, aren't they? If we look at the table, Leicester are 18th, but I think these three teams are down. But these two teams, and possibly West Ham, they're the teams I think you want to get Sorare cards from, because they're low valued at the moment because they're not doing that well. But come the end of the season, the pressure's going to ramp up and they're going to want those wins. So I would really go for these 3 cards. I've got a Wolves stack. I've got Everton in Classic and 1 in season, and I've got a full West Ham Classic stack. So I've got these 3 teams covered, and I've got some Chelsea cards, obviously being a Chelsea fan. But yeah, that's my thought on Leicester. I really don't think there's anything to get excited about in terms of Leicester. So that was that game. Next game on the roster, on the lineup, was Premier League matches. Next game was Ipswich Southampton. This was another game that I was watching parallel to the Everton game, and I was watching this game because I have a Liam Delap in-season card. He scored, got me a good score, so I was happy. Even though Ipswich lost, I wasn't really worried about them conceding. I do have a Leif Davis in-season card as well, but I played him in one of my weaker lineups, so I wasn't really taking that seriously. But Liam Delap was in my first Premier League Division 1, not Division 1. We're going to be in Division 1. I think we're getting promoted, aren't we? I think we're going to get promoted, so we're going to be back in Division 1. But yeah, I played Liam Delap in this lineup because, as I titled my video on Thursday, it's Liam Delap season just for this one game. So yeah, Liam Delap did well. Could have done better. Just really disappointed with Ipswich. I was hoping, because I've got Liam Delap and I've got Leif Davis, I was hoping Ipswich were going to be that team like Burnley were last season, where even if they get relegated, they put up a fight. Maybe they finish third to bottom, or maybe they kind of yo-yo between just out of the relegation zone and in the relegation zone. I was really hoping they were going to be that team, because I've already got 2 players in season, and if they did become that team, I could get the goalkeeper for quite cheap, get a midfielder, and then they've got Enciso, which I quite like as an attacking player. Enciso, he didn't look fresh, to be honest. I watched this game thinking, is Enciso good? Could I get the Enciso and Delap double up for my in-season teams? But to be honest, I don't think Ipswich are really worth it, and I'm not probably going to go near them anymore. Losing to Southampton at home, I feel like that was their chance to stay up. If they're losing to bottom of the table team at home, that to me doesn't say a lot for their sort of collective state. And a controversial take, and maybe I'll go to the main cam now for Amreezy's controversial takes. Here's my controversial take for the week. Maybe Ipswich should have cashed in on Liam Delap in the January transfer window, because it's not looking good for them. They look like they're going to get relegated. And if they're going to get relegated, they could have cashed in Delap now, because I'm guessing they put the message out to all the other clubs. Liam Delap is not for sale. Maybe in the summer when we get if we get relegated. They probably said if. I doubt they said when we get relegated. If we get relegated, we might think about selling Liam Delap then. Until then, we're keeping him because we need him to stay up. But looking how they performed against Southampton, I don't think they're good enough now to stay up. So perhaps they should have cashed in on him and had a striker that they'll play with in the Championship next season, and almost treated this season like practice for next season. Got the striker some experience, build his confidence a bit. Then in the Championship, he's like settled in and ready to hit the ground running, get promoted back to the Premier League. Now what they're going to do is they're going to have Liam Delap, probably lose him in the summer, probably get relegated, and then have to find another striker for next season in the Championship. So I know it never would have happened, but I just think it's an interesting angle to think about, is that if you're going to get relegated and some of the board members maybe deep down think we might get relegated, maybe cashing in on your best high-profile player when there's teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, big teams that want a striker, publicly want a striker, and will pay very high fees for a striker right now. They could have maybe cashed in the January transfer window. Obviously, it would have sent out a really bad message to the fans. But I think if they would have signed another striker instead and had lots of money left over, could have been a good option. Maybe in the summer, they won't be able to get as much money for him because everyone's going to know you're relegated, he wants to leave, we're going to pay you less. I think they would have got more in the January window than they would have in the summer. That's my hot take on Liam Delap. And that's Ipswich Southampton. Let's take a look. And next game was Newcastle Fulham, and this was a bit of a surprise result. Newcastle 1, Fulham 2. Now, in terms of Sorare, I have a Jacob Murphy card. that I played in my second strongest lineup, and I captained him because I thought Newcastle are going to destroy Fulham. Fulham had just lost to Manchester United, maybe? Who had Fulham just lost to? Fulham had just lost to Manchester United. So they'd just lost to Manchester United. So I was thinking, away at Newcastle. Newcastle in great form. I thought Newcastle were going to win this heavily. So I put Jacob Murphy as my captain in this team. He's the only Newcastle in-season card that I have. I have avoided Isaac and Gordon because they're, again, just too expensive at the peak. I'm waiting for Newcastle to lose. Now they have just lost. How much are Isaac and Gordon going for now? Before, Isaac was going for about £42. Now he's going for 30, so he was going for about £40. Now he's going for £30. I think if we wait a little bit, this could drop even further. And I don't necessarily think Newcastle are all of a sudden in terrible form. It might just be one bad game, but that one bad game is enough for Sorare prices to come down. So Isaac is £33 when I had seen him for £40 before Fulham game. Gordon now £15. So now all of a sudden, he was about £22, £23. He's come down massively to £15. This is what happens. And this is when I like to buy my Sorare cards. When a team's lost, when a player's on the way down, or on perceived to be on the way down. Because even though they lost, Gordon still put up a 49 score, which is not bad. And my thinking with Newcastle is I'm going to wait. Because the fixtures get really difficult for Newcastle now. The fixtures, they've got Manchester City away, Nottingham Forest at home. We know Nottingham Forest are a tricky team. Liverpool away, then the international break. So the international break is when I'm going to look to buy Isaac and Gordon. I'm hoping, as a Chelsea fan as well, I hope Newcastle lose most of these games. And Chelsea, it helps Chelsea in their battle for top four. But also, it brings down the prices of Gordon and Isaac. So if you're like me and you've not got Gordon, you've not got Isaac, I went for the cheap option and just got Jacob Murphy. Wait till after those 3 games and let's just see the prices. I'll talk about it on this channel. I'll talk about it in these videos. I'm going to be monitoring Isaac and Gordon's prices. And after those 3 games, I think we might see a nice little price dip. And then that's when we swoop in for the better fixtures and the end of season run when they're going to be going for a European place. And they've got no European football, Newcastle. Let's not forget that. They've got no European football distracting them. So cheers to waiting. Here's to being patient. So yeah, Murphy, best rating of the team, which is good for me as a Murphy holder. I also think a Tonali card might be nice. A Guimaraes card might be nice. Lewis Hall card might be nice. Nick Pope, if he's back in goal after 3 games, maybe Nick Pope would be a good card. So you could build an entire Newcastle stack, maybe for a bit cheaper after those 3 hard fixtures for the remainder of the season. And that could be a good option. And, you know, this Newcastle team, I think in the long term are going places. So I'm not completely against the idea of buying a stack towards the end of the season and using them as classic cards next season, because I think the likes of Isaac, Gordon, Guimaraes and Lewis Hall will be the top scoring classic cards next season as well, especially when Newcastle have good fixtures. Think about it. Fulham, on the other hand, very impressive. Now, the only Fulham cards I have are Anthony Robertson, who is basically plays here. This is basically where Robertson plays. This is Robertson's starting position. This is Robertson's heat map, which is very great as a Sorare owner. Best rating on the team, 8 here. So great for him. And I've got a Harry Wilson card. Harry Wilson is injured. So Traore played. I don't think Traore did that great. And I think when Wilson comes back from his injury, he should be able to get back into that team. But you never know. So Fulham, I think, are a really exciting team. Because I've got 2 cards, they're another team that I'm tempted to buy more cards of and go for a collection, because I've got Wilson and I've got Robertson, maybe the 2 best players. A Jimenez card would be nice, but I've got Jimenez in Classic. So another reason that's put me off Fulham is I've got Jimenez in Classic, I've got 2 other players. Do I really need more? Do I need the goalkeeper? The defense, you know, Anderson's a good player, scores well on his day, but in general, the defense isn't known for its clean sheets. So Fulham are a funny one. But because they're a funny one, because they're not guaranteed solid Premier League team, I think they've the prices reflect that. So you can get a Fulham stack for quite cheap, and maybe they've got, let's have a look at Fulham's fixtures. Fulham's fixtures coming up. They've got Wigan in the Cup. So let's see how they do against Wigan. Let's see if they play an A team. If they play the B team, they've then got Forest, which will be a bit tricky. Then Crystal Palace at home could be quite good. Wolves away could be quite good. Fulham at home, Tottenham at home could be quite good. So these three fixtures, Brighton as well, these four fixtures are quite good. You might want to wait till after the Forest game because A, that'll be a hard game for Fulham. But say Fulham do well against Forest, then you've got the kind of green light to go. Might be good for some Fulham cards for this run of fixtures here. So I think Fulham are an interesting team this year. Where are they in the table? They're having a good season. They're 9th in the table. I think a lot of people predicted they'd be fighting relegation. So they're doing well. Look at the form. Draw, loss, win, loss, win. They're just a little bit inconsistent. But if they can get like 2 wins, 3 wins in a row, who knows what they're capable of. So that was Fulham. Now let's take a look at next game on the lineup, which I believe is Wolves versus Aston Villa. And it was another surprise result. I have a Wolves collection and I didn't feel confident playing any of them except for Cunha in my lineups. I played Cunha and I didn't even play Cunha in my top 2 lineups. I played Cunha as my captain in division, my third lowest ranked Premier League lineup, which did amazing because I had Chris Wood and Nico Williams in here. Nico Williams, by the way, I should have played in my first team. Oh, little comment here. Let me just check this one out. Fulham doesn't smash though through SO5 terms. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for the comment, Sushmo. You're right. They don't really smash. And I mean, did they smash against Newcastle? What were the scores like against Newcastle? I feel like they maybe did okay against Newcastle. They had some high scores here, but why don't they smash? Why don't you think they smash? Is it a case of they spread the points evenly through the team? Because if that's the case, it's going to be really hard to pick 5 Fulham players. However, if Harry Wilson's injured right now, and I don't think Traore is kind of the guy, so does Wilson being injured mean there's more chance of Iwobi smashing because there's more pressure on him? But yeah, that's possibly another reason why they're lowly priced. They don't smash consistently enough. So it's probably what puts me off them as well, because I want a bit of security with Fulham. I'd want some kind of, they're going to deliver. It's going to be worth it. They're going to say smash 1 every 3 games. And maybe Fulham's card smash 1 every 5 games. I don't quite know. Maybe we can look at a card. Maybe we can look at, let's look at Iwobi. I feel like Iwobi might be the only smasher. Smash here, a mini smash here, a good period here, good game here. So maybe like every 5 games he kind of smashes, and perhaps that's not consistent enough if you want some, especially in season, especially when you've got half the season left. You're going to want as much security as possible. Their passing points are rough. Sanderberg and Robertson are good, but the others are a bit iffy. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right, Son Mosh. You're probably right, and it's probably what has put me off buying. I've only got Wilson and I've only got Robertson. I've never really been tempted to get Iwobi, even though he does get big scores now and again. But yeah, Smith Rowe has been hitting the AA. Hasn't been hitting the AA. Would have. Yeah, he was one of those players that I looked at the beginning of the season. A little bit like Harry Winks when I was looking for potential bargains at the beginning of the season. He was one of those players that was kind of touted at the beginning of the season, right? Where you were like, you could see how it worked. But yeah, what do you think of maybe next season? Do you think maybe he needs a season to settle in at Fulham? It's his first year at Fulham, and it's also his first year playing a lot of first team football. At Arsenal, he was never a first team regular. He was always on the bench. I just wonder, maybe he needs a year being a kind of first team player then maybe next season he's got that confidence. Maybe next season he hits it the ground running. So maybe he's one to think about next season, because when the cards come out in early access next season, I'm imagining his price won't be high because of his season this year. He'll have a low price next season. So perhaps he's the player to think about for next year when people won't think he's going to do well. His price will be quite low. Maybe he'll be settled in. Maybe. I'm thinking out loud. I'm not saying buy Smith Rowe in early access next season, but I'm thinking out loud. The next game of the weekend was a big surprise for me, but a joy for me. Wolves beating Aston Villa. I have a huge Wolves collection. I think I'm nearly at 4% on my Wolves collection now. And it's really encouraging for me to see them doing this. It's really encouraging for me to see Cunha signs his new contract extension. I didn't want Cunha to leave because he's one of my best cards. And I've got Guedes. If he's going to be the striker in Larsson's injury, I've got him. I've got Larsson. I've got, quite a few other players. I can see him being quite affordable, but I do rate him as a player. I don't know. Yeah, he's one of those players where I like him in real life, but in Sorare, he just doesn't see his performances don't seem to match Opta's scoring system. So I think we're fairly similar on that opinion, mate. A Bellegarde scoring was very nice, and in a different position, Bellegarde. In the past, Bellegarde's played on the wing, sort of on the right wing. I think he's played here on the wings, but playing more centrally, he looked a lot better. I didn't watch this game. I think I was watching the Monaco game instead because I've got a Monaco collection as well. And also, I thought this game was going to be an easy Villa win, to be honest. But very, very impressed with Totti Gomez. I've got a Totti Gomez card. I've got a Bellegarde. I've got Semedo. I've got Andre. I've got basically all of Wolves' best players. And like I said, when I showed you the fixtures earlier, if we look at the fixtures here, Wolves have got Liverpool away. So wait till after that result. And if you want to join me on the Wolves bandwagon for this run of fixtures, when they're trying to stay in the Premier League, when they need wins, bit of confidence. If they do well against Bournemouth, bit of confidence. I'm low-key excited about Wolves and think that could be a little bit of a sensible pick. And beating Aston Villa 2-0. Now, another thing that I think I should mention is Aston Villa. I have not looked at the stats, but I feel like after a European game, Aston Villa seem to be struggling in the Premier League. Where are they in the table? Aston Villa are 8th. They were finished top 4 last year. I think they're struggling a little bit like Newcastle did last year with European football and Premier League football. So, where are we? I think Villa are a team to target. Villa are a team to target after they've played a European game. I don't think they've got the squad depth. Now, that said, they have just signed Marcus Rashford. They have just signed the Donny Marlin from Dortmund. And I think they're trying to sign another midfielder, if anyone knows. It's also, the transfer deadline day is currently happening right now. When my video ends in like 20 minutes, the deadline's going to close. So I don't know if anyone signed it. If anyone knows of any other transfer deadline deals that have just happened, let me know in the comments. Anyone watching live, that would be a great help. If you're watching this in the future, or in the past, sorry, welcome from the past. If you're watching this in the future, obviously don't write because I'll know the transfer dealings. But yeah, Villa have strengthened. So maybe that's going to help them in the Champions League now. So maybe they're not going to be quite as targetable after European fixtures. But I think generally, Asensio's gone to Villa as well. Ooh. How much is an Asensio card? Asensio. £3.97. £3.77 in season. Marco Asensio, the PSG winger. Yeah. Do you think he'll do well? Do you think he'll play? Will he get into that first team? They've got Rodgers. I feel like Rodgers plays more centrally. I feel like I feel like he can get in that first team because Rodgers, McGinn, and Ramsey, they're all kind of number 10s in my head. They're all number 8s or number 10s. They're all like playing the central position. So they kind of do need him. They do need some wingers. So perhaps it's going to be Asensio on one wing and Rashford on the other. And Rashford, I've seen already, his price has gone up to like £15 now. But I like the idea of an Asensio card. I might add him to my little watch list. Keep an eye on Asensio. I'll give him a few games. I'll see how he does. See if he gets in that first team and try and beat it before the price rings. I think he gets in there, quality player. Yeah, I like the idea of an Asensio. In classic, not that much difference between his classic price and his in-season price. So I think it's worth going for his. I think it's worth going for his in-season, and also he's a forward card. I think he'll play as a midfielder, but he's a forward card, which I quite like. I like that. I like that Asensio. I'm actually going to make a note of that right now to add Asensio to my little watch list. Thanks for the shout out, Son Mosh. Right, so that was Wolves versus Aston Villa. Next, so they were all of the games on Saturday in the Premier League. Then we get to Sunday, where we had back-to-back 2-0 away wins. The first one for Tottenham. I did not see this game. I did not see this result coming. I thought Brentford were going to get a nice, easy win here. I was worried that Mbeumo was going to get... I don't have any Brentford cards. So I was kind of worrying a little bit like, oh, I might struggle this week because a lot of Bournemouth cards might do well. And against Mike, I didn't feel that confident about my Premier League lineups this week. But Bournemouth didn't beat Tottenham. Out of form Tottenham, and Bournemouth didn't beat them at home. So, a little good tip here about forward cards. Forward cards as the mid so nice as Jules lost points go down. Very good. Very good points on Mosh. Forward cards as a mid, they are the dream. They are the dream. I've just bought a Kai Havertz. Little sneak preview for my Thursday video where I go through my gallery. I've just bought a Kai Havertz, but it's the other way around. He's a midfielder card as a forward, so that's not the right way around, actually. But yeah, back to Brentford, Tottenham. Spurs. Maybe. Are Spurs building something now? Are Spurs building something? Spurs game was a shock. Bentancur been churning AA. And that is music to my ears because the only Spurs card I have is Bentancur. And did I put him in a lineup this week? Did I put him in a lineup? Oh, I didn't put him in a lineup. I didn't put Bentancur in any of my lineups. Because I thought they were going to lose. I thought against Brentford away... they're going to lose, but... So I've got a Bentancur card, which is good. Because I think Fulham, Spurs now, they've signed a few players. So the squad's got a bit more depth that it needed. And maybe they're going to go on... This is going to give them a bit of confidence, as well as the new signings. So I'm looking forward to that Bentancur card being a good card to play. What are their fixtures like for Spurs coming up? Manchester United, good fixture at home. Ipswich away, great fixture. Man City, you never know. Man City have been a bit of a funny team this year. And I think this Man City game might be around the Real Madrid Champions League games. So perhaps that's kind of... Man City might not be as hard a game as you think. Then Bournemouth, Fulham, Chelsea, Southampton. So definitely some good fixtures there. Wirtz and Musiala forward cards are crazy. He had some good AA midweek as well. Yeah, I think I played him midweek. I got his midweek 34 AA away from home. That is glorious. Glorious. But yeah, definitely a good shout there. So I've got my Bentancur card. Who did he play midweek? Yeah, 2 69s. Back-to-back 69s. He's living the dream. A cup game. Yeah, I don't think I did have him, actually. I don't think I could play enough players in the Europa League. But very excited to use this Bentancur card. So, yeah. Brentford disappointing. But, as I was saying earlier, I like to buy cards when they're not hyped. So... Brentford could be a good time to buy some. I don't think it is a good time to buy Brentford cards, actually, because I think looking at Brentford's fixtures, it might get worse. Well, no, actually. They've got West Ham, Leicester, Everton. But I think that's harder than it looks. I think West Ham looked good against Chelsea today. West Ham look like they're getting organised. They're getting a bit more solid. And Chelsea were a little bit fortunate to beat them. That Cole Palmer own goal deflected winner for Chelsea. I mean, I'm delighted it happened, but I think West Ham did impress me today. I didn't expect them to be that good. And Everton impressed me. So I think these two games could be a bit harder than it seems. Leicester away should be a nice game. But yeah, I'm holding. I don't have any Brentford cards, and I'm not in a rush to get any. But if you were to get them, now is a good time to start thinking, looking at Mbeumo, looking at Visa, looking at yeah, maybe. I feel like none of the defenders are big smashes. The goalkeeper situation's weird. I don't know why Flecken wasn't playing. I'm not sure why Flecken wasn't in goal, but Flecken maybe he's injured. Will it say here? Flecken. What's happened to Flecken? He wasn't injured. He wasn't on the bench. Has he left? Damsgaard has 38 AA and a 2-0 loss from Cam. That's mental. Yeah. Damsgaard could be one. If you were building a 5 Brentford stack, let's do this live. Who would you go for? If you were building a 5 Brentford stack. Brentford. Obviously, you'd go for Wisa and Mbeumo as your 2 strikers. The goalkeeper might be cheap. If Flecken's been dropped from goal, so you go Mbeumo and Visa as your forwards, and then you play 1 midfielder, 1 defender, and 1 goalkeeper. If Flecken is not the goalkeeper anymore and it's going to be this new guy, his card's £4.15. Either way, if Flecken comes back in goal, quite a good price for Premier League in-season goalkeeper, £14.11. And the other guy's $4.15. If he becomes the number 1 goalkeeper, that's a real good bargain to be had there. Then you go for Damsgaard in midfield, maybe £7.20. And then in defense, you might go for defenders. So the best scoring defenders would be Collins. I don't think he's a regular. Is he Van der Berg? Pin? No. Ben Mee. Rico Henry. Is he back in the first team? Rico Henry? No, he's injured again. Rico Henry just came back from an injury. He's injured again. A defense would be a problem. I think you'd have to go for Nathan Collins, which you can get for £2.36. So it doesn't really hit that often, but if you wanted to back Brentford, it'd be a little bit like Fulham. You wouldn't really get as smashing that often, but you get it. Hello, Go Sakai. Welcome to the chat. Good to have you here, mate. You're here. You joined us for the last 10 minutes of the show, but you can always replay. You can always go back and watch the video in the future. That's the great thing about YouTube. That's a great benefit of YouTube. We can go back in the future. So that was Brentford Tottenham. The highlights were Bentancur. Keep an eye out if you want to buy a Bentancur Sorare card. How much is a Bentancur card going for in the market these days? Bentancur. A Bentancur card will set you back £2.40. That is very good value. I would recommend going for Bournemouth. Oh, you just joined. Well, you gotta. Here's what you gotta do. You gotta watch the last 10 minutes, and then you gotta go watch the first 50 minutes. That's the way you gotta do it. Watch it back, because I dropped some great Premier League insight in the first 50 minutes. But thanks for popping in and saying hi, though. So if I was buying a Premier League Sorare stack right now, 5 cards, I would go for Kepa, Zabani, Bentancur, Kluivert, and Semenyo. They would be the 5 I would go for. Now, the reason why Bentancur would be so good as your midfield card is because that way you wouldn't be competing against players playing 5 Bournemouth cards who've got higher collection bonus scores than you. You'd be competing. It'd just make it a bit more interesting because you'd have that Bentancur card and you'd probably be the only player who has 4 Bournemouth cards and 1 Spurs card. So I think that would be a really good lineup. A Bentancur and 4. And you're not using a classic card there as well. So you could even go for Zabani. Wasn't he at Spurs? He might have been. Yeah, he might have been. Was Zabani at Spurs? That is a good question. I think he was. Let me double check. Or maybe it was someone similar. Where do we go? Where do we go? Zabani. Korea. Where's his Korea stats? No, Dynamo Kiev and then Bournemouth. I feel like he was rumored to go to Spurs, but never went to Spurs and went to Bournemouth instead. Hoyson, the best future-proof and definitely worth the investment. How much is a Hoyson card going for? I don't have a Hoyson card. Because I've got the Zabani one, I thought I don't really want a second... I don't really want a second card, but maybe it's worth... Oh, yeah, his price has gone too high now. But if you want a good long-term investment, that could be a good call. That could be a good call here. You should recommend Hoyson too. I think my recommendation was a bit cheaper. If you want to go spend a little bit more, Hoyson's probably more guaranteed for points. If you want to go a bit cheaper, and he's on loan, so not really worth it. Ah, okay. Zabani. Well, I mean, if we're thinking in season, a Zabani card will cost you £4.29. So like a quarter of the price. But Hoyson does have the better scores. So you got to weigh that up. I think it depends on your budget. However much budget you have. If you want a cheap stack, I'd go Zabani. If you want to spend out a bit more cash and have a better chance of winning cash prizes, probably want to go for Mr. Hoyson. Also, Go Sakai. The thing about him being on loan, it might not be that bad of a thing because they paid 12 million for him. Oh, okay. Even if he was on loan though, if you buy his card next season, he might move. If he moved to a better team, you've got his card to play for when he's moved to a better team. He'll be playing for the Big Six soon, so young and so good. I think I'm going to look to buy him probably at the end of the season because like you said, he's a good investment for the future. I think right now you're paying a kind of in-season tax and my kind of priorities in season are in Nottingham Forest and Wolves. So I don't know if I need another defender, but yeah. That was Bournemouth v Wolves. Nope. That was Brentford v Spurs. Let's get to... Where were we? Where were we in the schedule? Right. Matches. Sunday. Then we had Manchester United 0, Crystal Palace 2. Manchester United are so hard to predict. You just can't predict Manchester United. Now, the one card that I think might be interesting here is Kobe Mino. What do we think of Kobe Mino? Because he played as a false 9 in this game. Tony says rewards. Rewards? Tony, you have to explain more. Is that a sarcastic comment? Like, who wins rewards in Sorare? Or are you genuinely curious about how the Sorare reward system works? Let me know your game level experience and I will be able to tackle that question more. We're screwed. Martinez is injured. Sonmash, you're a Manchester United fan, so do explain. Do you think there's any hope here? Would you recommend anyone buy any Manchester United cards? Because the one I'm tempted by is Mino, Kobe Mino, because he played on the wing last game. Now he played as the striker. Is he going to be a case of a midfielder playing up front and getting lots more chances? He won't play there again. He was awful. Oh, okay. Well, you heard it there first, people. Wrong camera angle. I'm still new to the live game. Wrong camera angle. Heard it here first. Hot takes. Are Manchester United going to be good? Answer 0. And that's coming from a Manchester United fan on the channel. Our sources, Amreezy's sources say Manchester United, not worth buying. Diallo, yeah, Diallo is obviously a good card. Diallo's price is a little bit too high right now. Manchester United players, if they do well, get really high value. But I think in the summer, a Diallo card might be good to buy for Classic. How much, out of curiosity, is a Diallo card going for? Diallo card will cost you £22.41. You have a rare stack and a full limited collection. Just don't. Oh. Dorgu just joined Manchester United. Yes, he did. That's another. So it'll be interesting to see. They signed 2 new players, Manchester United, right? Dorgu and someone else. So overvalued as a Man U fan. Yeah, that's the problem with Man U cards, because they're such a globally popular team. The cards are all really expensive, so that's why I don't have any. But so Kobe Mino, breaking news, not worth thinking about. Diallo, maybe worth thinking about in the future when if results improve. And Crystal Palace, on the other hand, I've got a mini Crystal Palace stack. They did really well for me this week. Look how well my Crystal Palace cards did for me this week. Crystal Palace here, I played Henderson and LaCroix because I didn't think Crystal Palace were going to win. So I didn't play Mateta. I put Mateta in a silly lineup. I put Mateta in my cap 250. Look, Mateta I put here in my cap 250 lineup instead of Jackson, who was useless today. I should have gone for full Eze, Mateta, all the Crystal Palace boys, Mitchell in defense. I really should have had more confidence in Crystal Palace, but I just thought surely Man United are going to win because I thought Man United were playing better now, but they're a little bit like Chelsea were with Pochettino, where whenever they look good, they kind of go back to being bad again. Dorgu and an 18-year-old. Dorgu's passing stats are poor, won't be good SO5. Bruno's class, although always puts up AA, but again, not a budget player. Yeah, Bruno, I'd love if Bruno was a budget option, but yeah, you're paying the Manchester United tariff if you're going to get a Bruno. But yeah, Crystal Palace are a very exciting team. They're another team I'd encourage you to look at if you want to buy a cheap stack. The goalkeeper's defense is good. LaCroix is good. Gay's good. Munoz and Mitchell are very attacking wingbacks. In the system that they play, they're constantly bombing forward. ARL was nice hearing you yapping for 10 minutes. See you later on Twitch. See you later, Go Sakai. 7-0 after Nottingham after getting destroyed themselves is crazy. I could not believe Nottingham Forest won 7-0. I watched that game. As a Nottingham Forest holder, I was saying earlier in the video, Tony, that like I didn't back them enough because I thought they might win, but like 1 or 2-0, especially because Nottingham Forest don't score that many goals. I think they've never really won more than like 3 or 4-0. So yeah, I should have backed them more in my lineups. I only kind of backed the defensive stack. I didn't really go for Chris Wood. I put him in my third lineup. Terrible. But yeah, Crystal Palace are another one of my teams in Sorare, and I'm delighted with how they're looking. Eze didn't start, but he came off the bench. So next game, Mateta, Eze, and Crystal Palace's fixtures, by the way. Let's just take a look at the fixtures of Crystal Palace. Everton, Fulham, Villa, Ipswich, 4 nice fixtures. Then Newcastle away might be tricky. Then Southampton and Brighton. So Crystal Palace are nice fixtures coming up. I think they're a good stack. I think Crystal Palace and Bournemouth have probably got the best 2 sets of fixtures. Maybe with, who did I say earlier? Fulham have got a couple of good games. But as we said earlier on the video, Fulham stacks, we're not fully certain on the AA on Fulham. So that was Manchester United Crystal Palace. Then the last game on Sunday was Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. We are going to slightly overrun the hour time frame, but I think that's okay for today. Manchester United. On the back of this Arsenal-Manchester City game, I bought a Kai Havertz Classic card. I bought his Chelsea card, which helps with my Chelsea collection, because I really was impressed by him. I know Havertz misses big chances, but against City, he looked so lively, got an assist, got a goal. And what encouraged me to decide to buy Havertz was that Arsenal aren't going to buy another striker this transfer window. I think I expected Arsenal to buy a striker. Seems like they're not going to buy a striker now. So Havertz is going to get way more game time up front. So I think he's an interesting pick if you want to go for someone a little bit different. I think there's a lot of people think Havertz, oh, he misses lots of chances, and he does. But I think for the remainder of the season, Arsenal look kind of like them. They might be going to give Liverpool a good push for that title, and Havertz is going to be the main guy up front. So I've got him, and I've got a Declan Rice in Classic. Possibly this defenders are worth thinking about again, but I've not been too impressed with Arsenal's defense this year. I think Everton will be tough. Skillyman and Dye is on fire. Yeah, Everton possibly is harder than it looks. You're right. So maybe not that game. But after Everton, I think they have good games, right? So Everton, so possibly you might want to wait. If you wanted to buy some Crystal Palace cards, maybe the sensible thing would be to wait for the Everton game to finish and also see how Fulham do, see how hard that Fulham game is going to be. Because if Fulham do terrible in this game week, then this could be a nice fixture here. But yeah, I like my Crystal Palace cards. I think it's nice half backing them, like defensive stack. And Eze is quite a nice AA player as well. So that's Arsenal. And then the last game was today, just before I did this video. It was my Chelsea boys against West Ham. And I'm going to be honest, we were really lucky to win this game. West Ham impressed me. They looked organized. They looked way more organized than they ever did under Lopetegui. It looks like Potter's finally getting some kind of organization. They've just signed... Have they signed Evan Ferguson? Is that official? I think Evan Ferguson has been signed from Brighton. So they've got a striker, which is good because then Bowen can go here. Kudos and Bowen alongside Evan Ferguson could be a nice strike force. They've got lots of options in midfield. I've got a Souček card. I've got a lot of West Ham cards in Classic. So I kind of hope West Ham do get going because I've got a complete collection in Classic. All the goalkeepers, all the attackers, Paquetá, Bowen, Kudos, I've got them all. So I think Evan Ferguson could be a nice little addition to that team. So West Ham impressed me today. I think they're going to do well. He'll be amazing. Okay, we got more good news from breaking news from Son Mosh. On loan, though, no buy option. Oh, okay, interesting. I can't believe Brighton aren't playing him. I know they've got Welbeck. Maybe they see him as the replacement for Welbeck next season. But interesting. And Chelsea didn't look that great. Jackson, I was thinking, because Chelsea have got a good run of fixtures as well. And I was kind of hoping Jackson could get himself going. I've got no Chelsea in-season cards. I do have a big collection from the season before and the season before that. But I've got no in-season cards. I mainly play Chelsea Classic. I wouldn't really advise Chelsea in-season this year. I just don't think we've got any consistency this year. I think we're a young team that are still finding some rhythm. I think next season Chelsea will be a better in-season option. This season, I just don't think you can predict how they're going to do because West Ham, a lot of people were predicting a big win for Chelsea. Didn't happen. Recent results for Chelsea haven't been that great. They've just been a bit hit and miss. I think it would be great if Chelsea can just scrape a top 4 place. I'd take that as a Chelsea fan. I'd love a 4th finish, but we'll see how it goes. And that was the last game of the day, guys. And that brings to an end my first ever Premier League and Sorare review show, aka Plassars. Thank you for everyone who got involved in the chat. Really appreciate it, Sunmosh. All of your little bits of knowledge and your tips here. Love that. Tony, thanks for popping in and saying hi and giving your opinion as well. And two Man United fans, it was good to have a Man United perspective in the chat today. Thanks to Ghost Sakai. Thanks to the Shan for popping in earlier and saying hi. If anyone's watching this video in the future, do give it a like. And if you've not subscribed already, give it a subscribe. That helps me out massively. I'll be back on Thursday. I'm going to be doing 2 videos a week now. Doubling my output. I'll be back on Thursday for a Road to Sorare Boss episode where I go through my lineups and show you how I'm doing and the cards that I'm buying. But in the meantime, have a good evening, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday's video. Peace.